Few discoveries in Central America have been quite so startling as that of the lost buried ruins of Copan in northern Honduras. In the 1840s, explorers penetrated the dense jungle and uncovered a majestic Mayan city with sculptured figures. There were courts, pyramids, and flights of stairs. When it was first seen, covered with thick vegetation, it probably looked like this. Today, the exploration goes on for another lost city. This time, the legendary Ciudad Blanca, or White City of eastern Honduras. Leading the expedition is Jim Woodman of the International Explorer Society, along with Jack Wood and Bill Spohr. Using a helicopter, enabling them to cover a lot of territory, they began their voyage under darkening skies. The Sumo Indians have a legend that the White City is a place of death, so the torrential weather seemed more like a warning than an act of nature. When the rain stopped, the tropical heat turned the jungle into an instant steam bath. They looked for their base camp in the vast region beyond the headwaters of the Platano River, at the bottom of a massive cliff with white walls, perhaps the source of the Ciudad Blanca legend. Jim Woodman first heard rumors of a lost White City 10 years ago. For the past 3 years, he's been getting closer and closer. Maybe the time was now.
This starts to be our base camp right here, because we're, all right, we want to go up to Wambu.
The Indians call it a sacred mountain. And perhaps because of the frightening noises rising out of the mist, they shy away from this place, perhaps hearing echoes of their own ancestors. No one could say if the white walls were man-made or natural formations, or in fact, if they were merely the gates of a hidden, forgotten empire. It was all a mystery, lost deep in the midst of 16,000 square miles of unknown wilderness. In the morning, before heading off to explore the cliffs, there was a brief chance to relax and anticipate the adventure to come. Even at base camp, there were things to discover, like a plant whose nervous system is sensitive to the slightest touch. While a breakfast of beans was prepared, they had a chance to contemplate the day ahead.
Of course, the interesting thing, I think, is that people here insist that they hear wailing and screaming of a human voice coming out of that mountain, and they've heard it since time gone.
What do you think about the possibility of the white walls, limestone walls, being Ciudad Blanca?
I think it very well have been the source of the legend, don't you? Because flying over that thick, impenetrable green jungle makes you realize that even if there were a walled city or pyramids or whatever there, they certainly wouldn't have shown up, and they wouldn't have shown up in gleaming white. These cliffs might just be the source of the legend. Jack, what did you find out that might give us some help in locating this site?
Well, not really too much, because they have no interest in this sort of thing. They know of the Ciudad Blanca. They've heard about it, but they're really afraid of anything that has anything to do with it, because of the spiritual connotations are concerned. And I don't think you could, for example, get any one of them to lead you to any part of it, even if they knew about it. So if we find it, we're going to have to find it on our own, if it indeed it exists.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to get very high in a helicopter and honeycomb those white, glistening cliffs on the other side of these mountains.
Take a look at those.
Right.
True.
As they prepare to do just that, they recalled a recent talk with Sam Glassmere, a miner and explorer for a large company, who claims to have come upon Ciudad Blanca and seen it for himself.
What does it look like?
Well, all it looks like now is several mounds and a form of a village in the form of a little rise, a little depression.
No white walls or stories we hear about a white city in there?
I think the term white city came from the area being surrounded by massive white limestone. Those mountains out there, they have massive white cliffs.
Not even the marauding Spanish conquistadors had penetrated this dense jungle area. Whatever ruins lay below were still untouched by modern man. The white walls were 15 stories high, said to be honeycombed with networks of caves and tunnels and stairways. From afar, they may have looked like the walls of a city, but from a helicopter, it was clear they'd been formed not by man, but by nature. The chopper drew closer to what the natives call the doorway of the spirits, a large square opening cut high into a white cliff. But this, too, was a natural formation. The great white cliffs could well have inspired the Ciudad Blanca legend, but the search for the lost white city would have to go on. An 85-year-old prospector, Raimundo Jones, was asked his opinion about the legend.
Rumor has it, legend, that there's an old temple between Carbon and San Esteban. Supposed to be a stone monkey on one side of the door and a stone monkey on the other side of the door with a golden badge. And inside they can see artifacts, you know, of gold. Well, I tried 3 times for it, but I couldn't find it.
We're out in the tigers.
Right. But this Casablanca, nobody knows much about it.
Okay.
A tip came from the local natives that one particular spot downriver contained a number of ancient artifacts. It's always a good idea to pay heed to the Indians, whose suggestions have led explorers to major discoveries in Central America. The explorers began searching. To their amazement, they began to find stone artifacts strewn about the landscape.
One of those mountains.
Right. Wow, it is heavy. Long, cylindrical stone. Looks like a stone they used to grind corn, but if anybody would grind corn with this, had to be 12 feet tall.
This is very, very old.
It was supposed to be examined why I didn't cook on the way this is shaped, with that oval top, it might be, maybe it will be a primitive cellar. What do you think?
I think it is. In fact, it probably was meant to stand upright.
Could very well be. Well, no point trying to uncover it all. We'll never do it.
We got to get the people from Tegucigalpa down.
This was the first real break in the expedition. Could this be part of Ciudad Blanca?
Hey, Jim, here's one. A terrific one. It's a great rectangular stone. Now look, it's about 6 feet long, about a yard wide. Obviously very carefully cut and shaped. But look down here. It's got a very definitely shaped depression.
You probably found it and turned it over.
Campilo, ¿dónde se encontró esto? Aquí mismo.
Aquí.
Ella estaba para allá. Over on the
He found
side.
it the other way.
No, le di vuelta para acá.
Did he dig the hole?
¿Hizo esto?
Yo fue que hice ese hoyo.
Ah, he dug it, yeah. Oh, he thought it might have been a tomb.
That's
When it says
Es porque imaginé que era tumba.
Jim, I don't know anything about rock. It looks like pure granite.
Right.
Could be a major
So how many temples are in this area?
In all, there were 2 square miles of unexcavated mounds.
Hasta la montaña. 15-minute walk and nothing but more mounds.
More mounds.
We may be
Es
on,
decir, aquí. Pero allá en la otra vecindad, sí.
oh, there are even more. They go all the way to the mountain.
Called to inspect the discovery was a team of archaeologists led by Dr. Edwin Shook on the left, a prominent authority on Central American culture. While the archaeologists went to work digging, Jim Woodman's sons, Jimmy and Henry, went off with Jack Wood to follow another tip from the Indians. An area with more carved stones had been cleared. And now Jack and the boys would be the first people from the outside world to see them. Whatever stones they might find were probably relics from some little-known civilization dating back to the year 1000. If so, it would be the first major archaeological site south of the Mayan ruins at Copan. It took a long time to hack their way through the jungle, and there was always the danger of poisonous snakes. But the prospect of such an important discovery was worth it. Suddenly, Jack Wood came upon the spot and rushed to get his first look.
Look at the size of these rocks, and how perfectly they're carved.
What do you think they use these for?
For tables, ceremonial grinding of corn, probably. But the amazing thing is that we walked through miles and miles of this area, and we never saw a rock. Yeah. Where did they bring these huge things in from? They had to bring mammoth stones in here and then carve them. And look at the perfection of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything around this area that's been as perfect as these have. Very defined.
For you fellows, this is certainly a nice climax to your summer's work, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, you're not...
On closer inspection, however, the stones were found to be sacrificial altars where pre-Columbian man executed his own kind for the gods. Sometimes thousands of human hearts cut out in a single day, while the victims lay on these altars atop large columns, lending credence to the legend that the lost White City was also a place filled with death. Until now, all these stones have been buried deep beneath the jungle, their existence almost lost forever. Part of the legend of Ciudad Blanca is that the lost White City could be hidden within huge caves that permeate this part of the Honduran jungles. Jim Woodman went to explore one of these caverns, following some jaguar tracks that led inside. From what he could make out, there were no signs of any previous civilization. There was always the chance a jaguar could spring out from nowhere, or a flock of bats. He kept on, but there were no shrines, no golden monkey, the way legend has it, at least not in this cave, just more bats. Meanwhile, the archaeologists came up with the most significant find of all. They dug up a white stone column, carved to resemble a stylized owl. Dr. Shook believed it was part of a huge temple city covering 20 square miles of altars and statues. So far, one of the owl-like figures had been dug up already, and they were in the process of digging up the second.
Well, we never expected to find one of them carved. It required a tremendous human effort to bring these stones in from a great distance.
Help was flown in to retrieve the sacred owls from the ground. One was 4 feet high, weighing 300 pounds. In this jungle region known as Bukra, here is evidence that the legend may be real. The trip was over, and the explorers would have to leave, but not before making a major discovery. The stone carvings, the altars, the statues, all prove that there was once a large civilization here with high cultural achievement. Dr. Shook looked forward to unlocking the secrets hidden within these ancient stone carvings. As the men watched the figures being taken away, they felt they'd begun an entirely new phase of research into Central American history. And with the aid of modern helicopters and space-age technology, perhaps the riddles below the steaming jungle terrain could be solved. Had they found the lost White City? Are these white walls the real source of the legend? And what more is there behind the face of the jungle? The unraveling of the mystery will surely go on.